how do you make it not to sound robotic? Because that's the trickiest part, and it feels like it is robotic most of the time because it's not your words.
I look at the script and I'm like, oh boy, that's not gonna work. That is just not gonna work. When I see word bestie at first line,
God.
I'm like,
Is like, what is your thoughts on swear words when it comes to briefs?
So girls, I feel like we've talked a lot about the visual part of content. We talked about editing, all the tools that creators need. But I feel like there's a thing on my mind that there's not a lot of information to find about. And it's the language styling in your UGC. I feel like we kind of touched upon that when we were discussing script writing. But I think there's so much more to it. And I feel like I can see a lot of creators now posting on social media, chatting about it. And I feel like that's the topic of the moment, is how to style your language, how to write your scripts, but also how to deliver the scripts. And I feel like that would be very interesting to hear your thoughts. So obviously, as always, we have a very nice, clear two perspectives on the topic. So obviously, Ali from the creator side and then Maria from the brand side. So Ali, what do you think is the most important thing when it comes to even starting thinking about writing a script for a client?
I think the very first thing is aligning your tone to the brand. So you always want to make sure that if you are working, for example, with like a fitness company or sports or activity, that your kind of style of writing that you're going to use for that is going to be very like upbeat. It's going to be lively, energetic compared to, and I think I've spoken about this before, if it's going to be like a wellness brand or like home goods or like that homeliness style, because then even when it comes to your tone and how you present yourself, you're wanting to talk nearly a wee bit deeper, slower, a lot more kind of like aesthetically pleasing in that regard. So I think, first of all, always you need to think, first away is tone. Is it high? Is it low? What kind of is it? And then that'll help when it comes to actually writing the content, because then when it comes to your script, you'll be like, okay, I need it to be this, 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 and then lining up your shots and whatnot to match too. So I feel like it's just a really nice starting point. And also too, I think it goes without saying here as well, as the language that you're using in that as well, that you want it to kind of be those softer kind of words compared to fitness brands. Like your buzzwords is high energy, energetic, it's kind of go, go, go. But I know we're going to talk about this more, so I don't want to talk too much about this one wee bit without Maria saying what she thinks too.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. I actually have a question. I don't have an answer necessarily, but I was just thinking about the fact that, when I do my demo calls, and I go on the mentions and scenes part, basically the part where they actually have to write the brief, I just tell them that there's two options. You can either provide the script, so the creators will just follow that script, or you can just give a bit of guidelines in terms of your key points and USPs. And then I also tend to tell them, some of them, I obviously look at their energy and stuff like that, but I tend to tell them that usually for the creators to actually come up with their own script, obviously if I provide the guidelines and the USPs and hooks and CTAs, whatever is needed, because it feels a bit more natural, because this is what the user would actually talk about and how it feels about the product and how it works and how they find the product and blah, blah, blah. So my question is for you, how can you, because I do understand those brands that really want to try a script that they have created. We also wanted to try a script that we wanted to be followed like line by line. But how do you make it not to sound robotic? Because that's the trickiest part, and it feels like it is robotic most of the time because it's not your words.
Do you know what? I think I agree and disagree with the idea of having a script or a brief. I feel like it's a very like one-to-one basis when it comes to that, because some brands, for example, let's say a jewelry brand, I would prefer to just have the script, because there's only so much that you can talk about, if that makes sense. And sometimes the brand will have a very different idea about what they wanted to have included than what you think. You would talk about elegance, sophistication. They would be like, actually, we needed to talk about the waterproof and, features that are not as obvious from the brief. So a script would be great for that, right? Sometimes, though, I look at the script and I'm like, oh boy, that's not going to work. That is just not going to work. When I see word bestie, like first line, I'm like, and I start sweating because I'm like, I am not
That's
their
not what I
bestie.
would say.
And I, the whole stress situation is happening. But
Yeah.
at the same time, as I grow as a creator, I am getting more confident and comfortable with saying things like that. But it's all about how many times you actually read the script out to yourself, and almost make it into your language, into the tone of the voice that Ali, you mentioned. I feel like the script is 100% based on your tone of the voice, the
Yeah.
energy that you give. You could read the same script in a very different ways.
True.
I think with that comment too is the fact it's all about channeling. Like if they want a script to sound a certain way, you can't. And like this is the thing sometimes too, it comes back that it is sometimes a talent to be able to mix something that is a script sound like you. And I think sometimes too, even when we're reviewing or like giving feedback, we can see, or I can see anyway, I'm sure you'll agree, Nicola, like the people that you can tell that it was a script given to them compared to other times I wouldn't until I look and I'm like, oh, they were given that, but they made that sound so naturally them. So I think it does come back to like being that actor and channeling like, okay, like for example, for me, I'm not the kind of person that would ever say, hey, bestie. I'm like, what? Not me. And it's not me. But for example, if someone did, I'd be like, okay, what way would I have to act? What was my body language if I'm going to be like that? You wouldn't just be like, hey, bestie. You'd be like, hey, bestie. Like it's different energy. I feel like you have to give that. And also too, if that's kind of script, your energy can't be at the very start like, hey bestie, and then fall flat and go back to you. You have to then channel it the whole way through and get that tone of voice the whole way through.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes for creators, like it is, as you said, practice. It's reading that script. And also too, if anyone is to look back at my raws, sometimes when I am saying a script that, for example, has been given to me, I'm saying it in completely different tones of voice until I find the right tone. So for example, off the top of my head, I'd be like, find out more here, or that's not a good example, but I'm trying to think of something. For example, if I was saying like, and guess what? You can do XXX. Whereas instead, if you're like, and guess what? You can do XYZ. Like there's different tones to things that'll give different. And I genuinely will be doing like 3 or 4 different tones, but like what comes most natural. And then when you're looking it back, I will be deleting out. I'm like, that doesn't look natural. That doesn't look natural, to try to find the right one.
And you kind of eliminate.
Yes. Oh, so many times I will say something. I'll be like, that was a perfect shot, but I'm doing it again in a different tone. And then when I'm editing, I'll be like, okay, what is it?
Like we said in every single podcast too, but what I would say is so important is once again the communication. If you've got a script from a brief or a brief from a brand as well, just chat to them, be like, look, I really want to make this sound as authentic as possible. However, I feel like if I tweaked a few words, this would sound more authentic to me. And 9 times out of 10, they will be more than happy because they want authentic looking content too.
Yeah, and also, I would say that it's obviously about repeating the script as many times as you can and trying new approaches, but it's also about research. And I think that obviously it sounds funny, but just watch other people's videos, see what they say, see how they pronounce things, how they put, that kind of impact on the words that just hit different. I feel like TikTok or Instagram is great if you just go to like people who share a lot of testimonial style videos and just watch them, how they say things. Quite often I see ads that I get like that little kind of tiny bit of inspiration for me to take on for my content. So when I would hear someone maybe saying like, hi bestie, that's more me, and I could take that on and I could make that sound like me and still quite authentic, if that makes sense. So I feel like that's all about research too.
Yeah, it is a good concept, and I'm glad that you actually brought it up, because I feel like I don't want to judge, but people might take it very lightly when it comes to like, oh, I'm a content creator, I know how to talk, it's easy. Like I have been doing this for quite a while now, but then boom, you got this script which you're like, I would never say this. So yeah, I believe every job in the world requires you to do research. Doesn't matter how minimal is your, I don't know, concentration level or how hard the job is. You have to do your freaking research. It doesn't matter. Like, a social media manager would have to stay on like Instagram and TikTok and all these like platforms to understand, trends, to understand what people are looking for and stuff like that, right? So why wouldn't you as a creator do the same thing, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, how would you get better, like, if you don't really like try to understand?
That's the key point, is like every job requires research, especially if you want to grow, especially if you want to become better and get more clients and hopefully like retain your clients as well, because you're showcasing so much skill and just being on top of everything. So that's definitely a big one. And we also mentioned the script itself, but also when the brand asks you to write a script, I feel like that's quite an interesting topic as well.
Yes.
So we've got a brief now, and we are also a script writer now before we even shoot, right? Ali, what do you first do to research the brand's tone? When they perhaps, the brief can be quite fluid. We can kind of see things that they want to mention, but they don't always say what exact type of voice they want, etc. So what is the first thing, Ali, that you look for?
First thing, I go straight onto their social media and their website, and I scour that for inspo to kind of see what their style is. Also too, for the kind of content they typically post, is it that luxe airy fairy kind of feel, or is it more nature based, or is it more indoors? And I really like to see that first before anything. But one thing, and tip to other people too, what I've started doing, and it just helps and makes the whole process so much more seamless, is I will always, if they don't and they've just given me a brief, I always now get them to sign off on my script. So I will do up a script and I will say, look, as soon as you're happy with this, I will then go to shooting. Just from past experiences, it didn't happen all the time, but the times it did happen, that people were like, oh, we'd have liked this to be said or that to be said, I was like, why have I wasted time filming doing this when that was a simple just ask them and say? So look for inspo from their actual social media, what they've already posted, and then talk to them. What about you, Nicola? What do you think?
No, I agree. I honestly couldn't agree anymore. The worst thing that can happen is when you have a script and you deliver as a testimonial. So you actually have to reshoot a part of the script that the brand didn't approve.
Yeah.
That just destroys your week. The rest of your week, you're just plus it kind of makes you second guess yourself, being like, oh, but this wasn't good enough. I need to actually reshoot. I feel like reshooting is just something, it's like Achilles heel for me. It's just please don't do this to me. Don't. No one wants to do it. But there's a lot of things that we can do, especially when it comes to testimonial scripts, like sending the script for approval to secure ourselves, to protect ourselves from reshooting. It's different with voiceover. I feel like no one really minds re-recording a little bit of voiceover when the script needs changing. But when it's testimonial, I'm like,
it's that face the camera, because the lighting that day, what you're wearing that day, you want it to be seamless.
Everything.
I actually have a very good example of this too from giving feedback on one of the videos. I noticed feedback from a brand, and the girl who created the content, I personally thought it was 10 out of 10. Brilliant content, really good ad. However, the feedback for the edit request was just this feels way too adsy. I wanted to look organic and more authentic. Now, the girl had done nothing wrong. It was brilliant. And even in the brief that was in it, the words that they'd used was these high energy buzzwords that she then incorporated into it. And I personally felt that was a really good example of when brand can give you a good brief, you think, and also too, by the way, they said in it as well, happy to give you creative control. However, when she done, they're like, oh, we weren't expecting this. We wanted it to be more organic and authentic feeling. And I thought it was really good to her reply, because she did say back, look, you did say these buzzwords. This is the reason why I went for this. I completely understand that this didn't hit the nail, so I will refilm in this instance. However, make sure that you have it clear in your briefs. And I thought it was very good of her even offering to do a reshoot, because in that aspect, however, one way that could have potentially been avoided was if she had have sent the script initially, because then they would have been like, oh, this isn't really the kind of feel that we're after, and it could have been stopped initially. But I think in that aspect too, sometimes brands don't always get it right either in terms of their tone, and sometimes it can be misleading exactly what they put in their brief as well. So just be careful of that one too.
And I know the situation, because the creator reached out to me, and I think she's a great creator, because she's quite new on the platform, but she has this very fresh kind of feeling and energy and ideas.
Her accent too is beautiful.
Yeah, I think she's from Scotland. Yeah.
Same person.
So we're talking about the same person. Okay. So she wrote the most beautiful email that I've ever received from a creator. That was actually, she had all the reasons to be pissed. And she could have been super mean in the emails. We had loads of these emails from people that were genuinely pissed, and I do understand them, but try to keep it professional again.
Take it down a notch.
Yeah, and she wrote this email where she was trying to explain to me what happened and what she did, and she feels disappointed on herself because she feels like she delivered a lot. Beautiful. I was just like, I'm so sorry about this.
Yeah.
Basically, what I did is because the brand wasn't right, and they should have stated this. The brand's campaign, it was also called something like giving creative freedom to the creator or something like that. You know, and
That
I'm
was
just like,
definitely, yeah.
no
You asked for
way,
it.
you did this. No
Yeah.
way, you did this, and now you're actually using like, I mean, you're trying to
Nearly get
make
two
this
videos.
creator like create
Yeah.
another video on a different tone. That's not fair at all. So I was just like, I was just angry. Obviously, I replied to the creator. I told her like, look, we're going to pay you extra for this because this is not your fault. Like, you spent and another like extra time for creating a totally new video, literally, you know.
Yeah.
That's not fair. So I reached out to her, and then I reached out to the brand, of course, and I'm just like, look, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know. And to be fair, most of the times these situations happen with agencies. I'm not sure if this is an agency or not, it doesn't matter, but I keep seeing this like, I don't care, I can do whatever I want and the creator will do whatever they need because I'm paying. And I'm like, you know,
I have to agree there. I definitely see a difference in tones from agencies to creators on the platform compared to
100%.
brands, because the brands are so much more like understanding, whereas an agency, it's a wee bit more just, not all agencies are amazing
not
too,
all, of
but
course.
some definitely stand out that it's very much like you can tell they go through a lot of creators. They don't understand it's a person
Yeah.
on the other side. It's
Yeah.
very like rough nearly.
But
Yeah.
also, I think there's also more people looking at the content through agencies. So the agency is the middleman between
Yeah.
the platform and the end client, which this is where the most miscommunication happens. Is not between the creator and agency, it's between the agency and the end client.
Yeah.
That's where it's like they're expected something else, and then the agency is like,
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, because a lot of time I've noticed too in briefs, like they'll do that, and then like if for like the re-edits or something, they'll say like, "Oh, we're thinking this or try that," and I'm like, "Is that from you, or is that you miscommunicated with the client initially?
Exactly.
Then it's kind of on your back, and then you're putting on the creator." So that's a very good point.
And I feel maybe, you know, look out for that as well. Just again to protect yourself from any potential rudeness coming your way. Just send that script.
yeah.
Just send that script, because then Clip has like a very strong argument against the brand being like, look, the creator has sent a script, even, you know, maybe some scenes ideas, etc. So you don't have to re-record any B-roll as well. It's like, look, you've had this script and you approved it. I am sorry, but there's nothing we can do now because that was approved. And I obviously understand it. I think this is another kind of nice way to kind of go into it now, is the actual script writing. I think as creators, we need to be a little bit more, trying to find a word, like responsible for the script writing itself. So we need to be accountable. That's the word that I was looking for what we put in the scripts as well. Because the worst thing is that you can just kind of do it like, whatever, script written. Or even worse, just put in a ChatGPT, not even change a single word. No. This is something that we need to discuss here, because it's becoming a problem now, I think. So you just put that script, don't really think about it, send it off. And then obviously it takes a little time for Clip to approve the message, for client to read the message, for client to approve, the message being, and then the time just kind of stretches and no one is happy. No one wants that. So when you send that script, make sure that you're actually happy with it. And that you know that this is something that the brand, that is on brand, that you're not just kind of wasting time on both sides. I feel like that's very important. But girls, what is going on with ChatGPT for the scripts now? I mean, I can't be the only person who just notices it so much now.
I think like the industry, and this could potentially be a podcast on its own, is very much going through a change. I personally feel like at the minute that even hooks and scripts is going so into ChatGPT that now there's a new side emerging, and it's authentic storytelling. And I'm starting to see that buzzword everywhere now. It's storytelling. But in terms of, it's getting away from like the, here's 3 reasons why. And like brands are wanting that more authentic, like day in the life, like more real life sounding content, which sometimes, fair enough, if you put a lot of like maybe prompts into ChatGPT, they might be able to get that for you. But I feel like some people don't fully always know how to use it properly and don't put their tone of voice into it. But then what it gives out is that typical like 3 reasons why, elevate this, rock star, game changing, and all these buzzwords that then every time you're just like, that's ChatGPT.
Skyrocket.
But you know what?
Skyrocket.
The thing that honestly set me off the other day was that it was for one of the brands, 2 different creators creating for the same campaign. Girls, they had the same.
No, you're joking.
The same.
I feel like
starting
that's such,
sentence,
yeah,
the same hook. They haven't changed a word, nothing. So that means that in my head, I'm thinking what they did is they just put write a UGC script for 30-second video about this product, link.
and just use the first
That's
one.
it.
Yeah.
Girl, I was shocked. I don't remember what the brand was, but I just remember the feeling of being
I
so
love to know the
deeply
feedback.
disappointed.
Yeah.
I feel like I will have to go back and find it because and I sent it to the feedback. It was like, look, this is the situation. You cannot just take it for granted and just take it as your own words, because you have to take into
It's copied for somewhere.
consideration
Yeah.
that someone might do the same exact thing, and then you both look so unprofessional.
Yeah.
And obviously
not
from the-
natural. Yeah.
No, from the
Yeah.
brand, I don't think they've noticed. That's why I kind of left it low key, but just gave the creators a little bit like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And this is, by the way, us
Watch
not
out.
to never use it. Just use it, as
No.
we said before, as a tool. Like, use it as, like,
That's
your
it.
Google Translate, like Nicola said one time. Like, it's not everything because it will mess up. I think that leads us quite nicely to into when it comes to the language then in scripts. Because obviously we've got the very clear, obvious ChatGPT language. But something I wanted to ask you about too is, obviously I am from Northern Ireland. I've got that Irish colloquial thing that we say. For example, we say love crack. We talk about crack all the time. That is something very much here. But what way do you find too when it comes to, or what's your opinions, I guess, I want to ask, when it comes to UGC creators bringing that colloquial, that language into their briefs? Are you for it yes, or are you for it no?
I think, Maria, it would be a good question for you to
Yeah. I think it really depends on the brand, I guess, and how flexible is the brand in kind of like, yeah, just having this kind of like language in their video. So we were talking about just like
for example, for me over here,
slang words,
what
like
would we
area,
say?
local
Yeah,
slang.
like local slang words. Like over here, it would be you have the
use.
best crack with your friends.
You use a lot.
Use. Yeah, so that's what I mean. So like,
I love
I'd be
that.
like, I the
I
best
love that
crack
too.
at the weekend, or yous are doing this today, or I'm trying to think what else. Not
Yeah,
top of the morning
yeah.
to you. I hate when people say
Yeah,
that. We don't say
God.
that. But it's along the lines, I'm sure, even in your own respective, like London words, or for example, like writing
Yeah.
words and stuff. Like
Yeah.
there'll be certain little things that you say. The reason why I'm asking this is because I personally, when I see ads, I quite like it, because then it's
Yeah.
like they've took the time to really target me as like from Northern Ireland.
But
And
this-
Yeah.
But this is the
other
main
side-
point that you just made. I feel like it all depends on the marketing strategy
Yes.
behind the brand side.
Yeah.
If they use your video to target specific location, perfect. But if they target someone who's like,
what are they all about?
what just happened?
Yeah, like just
Doggy
give
dog.
my Google Translate, you know.
So, so
Yeah.
they could be, it could build a little confusion there. So I feel like that's literally depending for the brand what the marketing strategy is. However, I feel like the more universal slang words, like for example, as you said, like crack or like use, that's something that just adds to the charm. So I feel
Yeah.
like from the brand's
Yeah.
perspective, it does though, doesn't it? It's like it just makes it more like relatable and just kind of like not as, uptight.
Yeah.
I personally think it's great, but in moderation.
Yeah.
Don't
I
overdo
won't
it
lie,
as well.
I personally don't put it into my briefs or like my scripts for that reason, that I'm always conscious of. I don't want pushback from the brand being like, you know what, it's not this, but it's just the ads that I have seen. I'm like, that really calls out to me personally, and I'm like, that's cool. Or even like ads on TV. This comes back to, for example, there's a very prominent ad here in Belfast, and it's like a harp ad, and like it's so like the terms they use, the way they go on, I'm like, that's so us. I love that. But
Yeah.
that is different, because I think that goes back to too.
Yeah,
that's an ad
obviously,
on
yeah.
TV that's getting pumped out to
It's
our
national
area.
TV. It's
Yes.
different. Yeah,
So-
yeah.
But I think that's something good for brands to keep in mind, is depending where you are targeting. If it is UK wide, obviously have UK things. But if it's like specific to areas, for example, if it's a specific service or like a location, then I think it's quite nice to put in, because it's just that bit more authentic sounding too.
But even if you, because to be honest, I'm not sure if people are actually using targeted locations as only if you're a local business.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's what I mean,
100%.
local,
Yeah. Only if you're local, yes. But if you're like an e-commerce brand that is shipping
No.
through the UK, it doesn't really matter, because hopefully we think that Meta is advanced enough to understand the audience that you are putting that ad to. So if you have an accent that is more targeted towards Scotland, then yes, you will see it more often for that region. And this is because the AI basically built in Meta, or whatever it is, the system is working properly. And this is because, again, you are targeting your audience through your creative. So yeah, just for local businesses, definitely not a good option. So yeah, be mindful of that. If you're a creator, just think about, no, sorry, the other way around.
I was gonna say, it's like local's good,
Yeah.
not far away.
Yeah, local is good.
Yeah.
Local is good. Yeah. So if it's like just read that script, just read that brief beforehand, because we had so many situations where the creators were not reading the script, and were not, like, let's say the brand didn't even give a script. They gave just like guidelines, and they were just like, oh, have, like, literally the guideline was like, go on this page and check these product, or these kind of things. And then the creator will not even open that link, and then
It's so frustrating. And also that brings us to another point. Before we go to spicier bits at the end, I feel like it would be very interesting to know your thoughts about, we're quite an international team ourselves. What do we think about accents, pronunciation of words, spelling in the captions? I feel like this is a very important part of the language bubble that we're chatting about today. I think maybe let's start with the accent. How do we feel about strong accents? What should creators do? What is the tea?
I obviously want to know you, so I'm going to leave the specific accents, because I think, coming from me, my first language is English, so I literally have no excuses. So I want you guys, I'll let you guys answer, obviously, if it's not your first language and you've another, because I think straight away it's setting up, and I don't want to sound harsh here, but I won't lie, when it comes to, for example, viewing videos and you can tell the person their first language is not English, then their pronunciation, and also too, this is why I'm quite glad that you two, your first language isn't, so then you can kind of chat with me about this. I'm not being unfair, hopefully, but sometimes I feel like their pronunciation isn't on spot, and it can be such a great video. I'm like, this is a brilliant creator. However, the audio was just not there, and it comes down to simple. It's really hard to hear, and it's hard to understand exactly what they're saying. What I would say, for example, for me, being Irish, whatever, I talk fast. I know I talk fast, probably too fast still, even in videos. But that's something I'm always so aware of, that when I am filming, then I will always try and make myself go slower. So this comes back to, even if it's your first language or not, always talk a little bit slower, and warm up. This sounds so bizarre, I know, but warm up your talking. So I'll just start to do, because when you're saying different words too, you may not be warmed up enough to get it. And if I'm filming voiceovers, I look like a crazy person, because I'm all getting
Sharpay
proper
Evans.
but I'm proper. My hands are moving, my mouth's trying to get that. It's crazy, I know. But I find that helps. But I also say too, is have such a high standard. If you think, or you didn't say a word perfectly, do it again. Always do it again, because the amount of times there's mispronunciations of words that's ever so slightly just there, it really does affect the overall flow of it. And it's something I'll always hear. I'm like, nah, it just doesn't sound right. So especially if it's not your first language too, be really fussy, because I think, unfortunately, it's a tricky one. But yeah, I want to know your thoughts, because obviously I'm privileged enough to be oh, it's my first language. I don't have an excuse to not have an accent. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'll go from a brand/platform perspective.
Yeah, because that would be very interesting to hear.
Yeah, and I will be brutally honest, and I will say that anyone that has a very strong accent, it's not going to be approved on the platform, unfortunately, because brands will always want someone that has a clear voice. English is not my first language, as you can probably tell, but I am trying to do my best, and I'm trying to obviously watch a lot of movies, and just in English, right? And just trying to speak a lot and everything like that. I have been learning English since I was a kid. I know I was probably 3 years old, because that's why, most of the East European countries, that's how you start, because English is you have a gold in your hand, and you can just leave, you can go wherever you want. But I am trying. I don't think I will ever be a content creator, because I don't have the skills, and I don't have the patience, and I don't have the whole knowledge, probably. But if I were to be a content creator, I would do anything that it's in my power to try to improve my accent. Sometimes it is strong. I probably had a strong accent when I first started to like talk in English, but then obviously once I started to talk to people that are native, and this is a big like advantage, is just talk to people that are like native. I just practice a lot. Like it's all about this. But just to go back to my point, we wouldn't approve them because the brands will come back to us. We had situations where the brands will reach out to us and will say, look, we have, I don't know, 10 applicants in our list. 5 of them have very strong accent from their point of view. So, you know, what is happening?
Yeah.
And then this happened like a couple of weeks ago, probably maybe a month or something. And the thing is that it's just a pity because Andrea, obviously she's in charge of the process now. And she always tells me, sometimes she's just like, look at this creator. She creates beautiful content. It's just amazing content. And because she has a very strong accent, we can't approve her.
Yeah.
You know?
I think to add on to the back of that quickly, I think a good way maybe to look at it just from you chopping too is the fact that UGC, the areas that the clip operates in, is America, the UK, and Australia. So I think from a point of view from a brand potentially too is if they want content, they want it in the language that their audience will understand. That I think sometimes you've made a very good point there is like there's such good creators, but they might just not be the right for the UK market. Doesn't mean they can't be a great creator in their own market or different markets, but for the UK English talking market, it is just a little bit trickier. And it all comes back to nothing personal. It's just down to the fact the audience listening to that ad needs to be able to understand it really simply and easily, or else that's another barrier to entry for the person viewing it to actually do anything with that ad to make a purchase if they're like, oh, I have no idea what they're saying. What do you think, Nicola, too?
I 100% agree with everything you both said. I think the problem is that, again, it's all about the accountability, right? So like you hold yourself to a specific standard. And if you want to call yourself, I love to call myself an international creator. This is like my pride and joy, like my pride and joy to, to be able to say it. But it's because I put effort into it. And like, trust me when I tell you this, since I started learning English, my main goal was not to have a Polish accent. Like what I wanted to do is for people to be confused where I'm from. That's
I'm one of those people confused because you do have a very good English accent. Because even my husband Jim, when he's like heard before, he's like, she's a really like posh sounding English accent. I'm like, she's not. She's learned that though. But like, but now I think a credit to yourself because you have definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll take that. But my main point is that like there's been a lot of work that went into it for me to sound the way I sound, and there's loads of accounts now that can help you with like pronunciation or like accent and stuff like that. There's a multitude of those. When I was learning English, there was none. All I could do was listening to songs and watching movies with Polish subtitles.
Cartoon Network, that was our English channel. Literally.
Exactly. And like we didn't even have any. I think the first time that I had like a contact with an English production with an English original sound or something was when I was like 12 and I watched Hannah Montana, and I realized that on the TV you could switch the sound to the original sound. And I would listen to the English with Polish subtitles. It was so confusing. I had to watch an episode like 3 times to like get into it. But guess what? I still to this day have Polish subtitles on or English subtitles on everything I watch. It's not because I don't understand. It's because I want to engrave it in my brain how you spell words, how you pronounce it, to see the word and hear it at the same time. Guys, your brain just works on another level. I would highly suggest putting subtitles, English subtitles on anything that you watch.
Yep. I do the same.
I think that's such a great tip even too, because even for me, who is an English speaker, I've a few times, like for example, my friends once again take the mickey out of me, but I used to say like kush kush, and couscous, and khaki I used to call karki, like just completely wrong. But that came down because I was like, why am I doing this? This is so weird. But then when I researched it, because anything I'm like, what's that mean? Google it. It was like, it's because you've always read words and not listened to words. And like, that's I'm backing up. That's so important, even for speakers like us, because I do pronounce things maybe wrong sometimes, and then I'm like, that's not right. And like, you can never, as an English speaker too, learn enough for words that you haven't heard someone say, you've just read. It's so good to like, how do I actually pronounce that properly? Because also too, let's be honest, if my friends hadn't took the piss out of me and been like, what the frig, you could have sent off a video to a brand and be like, love my kush kush, and they'd be like, what the actual frig? Do you know what I mean? Why am I professional? This is awkward, but
it's all like,
it could happen.
relative, you know. It happens in all languages, in all cultures, and anything that you're trying to get rid of or learn. It's still there. There's always room to improve.
Always.
Whatever level you are, it really is. But also, if you do start watching it with subtitles, you will see how much you're actually missing out on if you don't have them. The words just kind of like disappear. It's the same reason why people have captions on your videos, right? Is to engage the senses in a different way. Your brain to kind of works a little bit harder to watch it, if that makes sense. And I feel like take accountability if you do have an accent to just optimize it slightly. I wouldn't say it's your
change
charm,
it.
it's your personality,
yeah, exactly.
of course.
Yeah.
But just like, I still have my quirks that all my friends are taking piss at. Like, and I can't even think of any right now, but sometimes, and they let me do it. They stopped telling me to. I had one friend that I would literally ask, like, if I say something wrong, and that was when I started uni in UK. If I say something wrong, it's your job to tell me. You can't just you can't enable me to say things wrong.
Be stupid. No,
Exactly. But then now she stopped. So she's just kind of like giggles, and I'm like, what did I say? Just tell me. Like, I want to know. She's like, no, because this is your quirk. Like, this is your little thing, and it makes you who you are.
Yeah,
so
the authentic
don't get rid of it completely. Just kind of, like, get to that middle ground of, you still have your personality. You're an international. That's what makes you an international creator, I think, because you've got that culture behind you, that what brands often want as well. But you also have that clear quality that you can deliver on anything. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I look at the script and I'm like, this was such a mistake. Like, why would I? Why? What? But I feel like, and then I think to myself, probably native English speakers would have issue with that too. Because it's like beauty brands with ingredients that are like, that's not English. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
It's like, it took me probably like 2 months to learn how to say hyaluronic acid. Like,
hi.
Exactly. I still don't know how to say it. I don't know if it's hyaluronic or is it hyaluronic.
But
it's just one of those things that I feel like...
Isn't it hyaluronic acid?
Yeah.
See what I mean?
There you go.
I was like, is she taking
hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid.
Yeah.
Hyaluronic acid. But this is the thing when there's like, is that a quirk or is that a mispronunciation?
I will tell you, love you, but that's not a quirk.
You should mispronounce.
When you know. Daily struggle, guys. I'm telling you. Daily struggle. But it's the one of those things. It's like, sometimes give yourself some credit for trying, but also really use the tools that you have available, like how people pronounce the words. The best way to do it is to actually go on brand social media to see what was approved by the brand, right? Because that just makes sense. Like, that already went through that process that you're struggling with at the moment. Because Google Translate can sometimes F you up as well. Let me tell you. Yesterday it did to me. So, bidet? Bidet? Is that a word? Does that make sense?
It's birthday, right?
That's what I thought.
No.
What do you call the, like, there's a toilet and there's a bidet.
Oh, bidet as in B-I-D-E-T.
Yeah, how do you pronounce it?
I can't think of how you mess up my brain now.
I'll probably pronounce it bidet because I know it from French. That's why.
In my head, I was like, bidet. But then my husband was like, bidet? What's that? And I'm like, oh no, oh shit. Like, I just mispronounced it. Bidet. Go to Google Translate. It tells me, bidet. And I'm there like, it sounds vile.
I highly recommend, there's like a YouTube, I don't know what the count is, but he pronounces them right, because it's like nearly that's the problem with Google Translate, is sometimes even if I have Google Maps, it'll pronounce it straight and I'm like, what? That's not what it's called. But there's a guy on YouTube and he literally just is like thousands of words and he pronounces them like, great, thank you. But that's
I love that about they do that with like fashion brands or like cosmetic brands on TikTok. It's like how to actually pronounce the
like
word.
Christian Dior.
But yeah, exactly. But then I listened to Google Translate. I was like, okay, I'm gonna say bidet. Bide it fresh something, whatever. I send it to the brand and they just go, sorry, but you mispronounced the word bidet. And then nothing. And I'm like, but just like tell me. Like how to pronounce it.
How do you
trust me not to
pronounce
read
it?
it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you do your research and it's still not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
check, you doubt yourself, you double, triple check,
Fact
and it's
check.
still
Yeah.
wrong. So I would say let's have some mercy on us international creators, but at the same time, you're not excused. And I feel like if
No.
you're an international creator, you probably have even more work to do.
I was gonna
than,
say it's harder
but-
nearly because you have
but
more
it doesn't. But it doesn't mean it's unfair. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's unfair because we are acclimated in this country or in this
Yeah.
culture for a reason that we wanted to. And now this is what we do. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's like a radio person has to have an amazing voice and that's like the quality that they're looking for. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you chose this path.
I
You
think
know?
that's a good point. Is like you could be an amazing creator, but like you, at the end of the day, like that might be something you just don't have, and like unless you really work at it, like Nicola has, then it just might not be for you in this market within the like, English speaking market, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think, girls, this takes us to like a really nice point too. Is like, what is your thoughts on swear words when it comes to briefs? First of all, honest question. I could be silly here, but I honestly thought that swear words were banned
Same.
in ads, as well as like nudity, all that stuff. But
Hmm.
I'm seeing them so much more now, and I personally have had like them in briefs before too. But first of all, I'd love to know, Nicola, your opinion, and then Maria, from a brand's point of view, who obviously you've done this, so you know too.
So this is a very interesting topic, I think, because as you said, there's more and more of those ads kind of popping out of nowhere and they stay in your brain, like you remember them.
They grab your
Because
attention.
there was that shock value,
Yeah.
right? I honestly think, and I don't know how this is like, don't like kill me for saying that because I don't know if this is actually 100% factual, but I honestly think that brands sometimes just push those ads until they're blocked and they're just kind of, I don't know. Because
Or
it's
do
like,
they get
Yeah.
away with the beep that then if they beep
is it going
technically-
against, because it's technically, it should go against the
Yeah.
community guidelines, right? Swearing, because it's like a hate words or whatever. I don't even know. But it's again, maybe it's like Maria. Maybe you will have a like more factual understanding of that. But what I would say is that I used to hate when brands would ask me to do that because I would be like, this just feels wrong. You know, it's like
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
like,
It's like when
I
you're
don't know.
professionally in a professional setting in a business meeting, swear.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
It doesn't feel professional, but
That's it.
it's like, so, and I was the exact same. I completely agree with you that anytime I ever had on brands, it was like, icky. I'd be like, oh, I don't want me to be like
No.
full on like saying F this, F that. Even though, like, let's be honest, no one's perfect. I do swear in my daily life, trying to cut down. But when it comes to I'm filming content that's used as an ad, lots of people are going to see this. It's like
Yeah.
a little thing.
Yeah, no. I feel like this is the thing. The first time I agreed to do that, it was because I kind of pre-approved the script without really looking into it. And then I read it and I was like, oh, okay.
I didn't sign up for this, but
There's
apparently I
but I
did.
did.
F word in there. And this was in the hook as well. So I kind of had to bring the energy with the swear
Ooh.
word
You
as
have
well.
to bring, yeah.
But let me tell you, the thing that shocked me the most was how liberating it felt.
Shocking.
It's like,
Love to
it's,
see
you know,
the
it's
rest of the
like,
day, you'd be like, F that.
do you know, it's like that meme with the, like, when the parents leave and you can say any word you want and they're like,
Oh yeah.
penis. That's what it felt like. That's what it felt like. And then I feel like now I'm at this point where if someone asks me, and I feel like it works in that kind of script and with the energy, overall energy, it's not just random and it doesn't
Yeah.
look like I'm an aggressive person, then I'm more than happy to do that
Yeah.
because I now know, like, I actually tried. So sometimes it's
Mhm.
nice to just try it out and see if it's for you.
I feel like it's like ripping off a plaster the first time. It's like, oh, and
That's
then
it.
after that, because I agree, I am the same now because I won't lie, I do feel like as much as it's like, it is a hook at the end of the day, it's a very good hook. And
Yeah.
it does work, but it just, which I think now, I like, onto you, Maria, what your thoughts on it too. I think for certain brands, depending on your tone of voice, your style, are you that cheeky chappy out there? Perfect. However, for example, if it's a luxury brand, don't be swearing. It's not that selling.
No, no.
It's
But
not the vibe.
also, but let me tell you just real quick, I would never put a swear word in my script without brand asking me for it.
Agreed.
That would be like, who do you think you are? Like, what are you doing? So I would never. But Maria, please share your perspective.
Yes.
So I think I would start off with saying, first of all, don't do it as a creator if you don't feel comfortable, or if you don't have a little bit of like curiosity of like, oh, how would it be if I would do it, you know? But if you don't feel comfortable at all, or if you're not that person, if you don't swear in real life, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's going to look very awkward for everyone. So just do us a favor. And don't do that. Now, from a brand's perspective, obviously, it depends on the brand. It depends on their tone of voice, on how they want to be perceived. We started to do this for Clip, and we are doing it quite often now because we enjoy it.
Liberated.
We're literally liberated. We don't care, you know. We started doing this in static ads, I think. Obviously, with the whole like, you know,
Marked out.
little like mark, whatever it's called, so that Facebook won't like
Flag you.
restrict it, flag it, yes. And then little by little, I think we started to incorporate it in videos, and now we are fully on. Most of our strong hooks are like,
We're on a swearing train.
yeah, exactly. So, and it works for us because this is who we are. We're
Cheeky
cutting
and
the
out there.
bullshit. We don't want, like, we're super transparent. We're literally talking like as if, you know, you would talk to us. Obviously, don't think about like we swear a lot. We don't. It's not representative as a brand, but as a way of expressing ourselves and what we want to tell the brands out there. Like, you know, like basically, like this is the crap. This is what is happening. And, you know, if you want to, you know, listen to it, that's fine. If you don't, then that's not our target market necessarily. But it is down to the brand's tone of voice. I would say research about your brand before you do that. I agree with you, Nicola. I don't think you should do it as a creator, as your own initiative, unless the brand has done this in ads before and has done it a lot, because it is a bit tricky. You don't know where it's going to end.
Unless
If the
you
brand
think it's not definitely in your personality. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, when, like, some
100%,
people,
yeah.
they swear and it's like, you know, they don't swear often. So when they do swear, you're like, whoa, where's someone else that's more flippant? Like, you
Yeah,
can tell.
yeah.
Or like almost
personalities.
cute as well. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes swearing can be cute. And like,
Yeah,
you will not
yeah.
tell me otherwise. It is.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
getting back to the point that you, Maria, said with kind of like beeping the
Yep.
swearings out,
yeah.
I feel like that's such a clever way to still bring that attention. Like, you know what I'm saying without saying
without
it.
saying exactly.
I love that. So I feel like if brands want to catch that attention and they know that their target audience is going to respond to it well, or like, you know, it's going to be just cheeky enough on that border of being like too much.
Yeah.
Just do it for the hook or for CTA. I feel like it's such a great way to kind of either start your video or kind of sum it up nicely. The other day I was writing a script, and that was the first time ever that I actually proposed the like word that it's not a swear word, but it's just like the sentence pain in the ass.
Oh my god.
But this is like, so it's like, it's not what? No, I said to you it's not going to be that aggressive or like, but it's not something that I would say on camera normally.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use that, like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't just say pain in the ass in the video. I wouldn't. That was the first time. So for me, that was my first. And I was like, but then I feel like my professional personality didn't allow me to actually say it. So I just bleeped it out. And I was like, pain in the beep. And I sent it to them, and the brand was like, do you know what? Like, we love it because it just made it extra cute. Like, it made it like, she was like too shy to say ass.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
She said
Yeah.
pain in the beep. And it was,
I like
but
that
it was in the CTA. So it was like, get rid of the pain in the ass something. And it kind of just summed up the whole thing very nicely. And I feel like that was the first time that I used that, like, that bleep sound, but it was quite effective. So I would
I actually love that example because you're completely right there that it made it out to be more than what it was by adding the beep, that it makes it more like of a good call to action. Yeah, no, I love that. That's so funny, but great.
It was funny. It was funny when I first wrote that script, I honestly thought like, obviously I have to bleep it. Like I have to do it. Like it sounds so aggressive. And then I was like, actually, pain in the ass. That's not even, what are you saying?
Yeah, but again, if it's not in your personality to say that, like, even on like a normal like day, you wouldn't say that. You would just be pain in the, or
No, but
you
this is
wouldn't
the
say
problem.
it.
Personally, I would. But it's just like my professional personality. It's like on video, on the record.
Yeah.
That's what, like Ali's point was earlier, is that like it's very different how we hold ourselves in our personal language,
right,
and in your
when you know it's going to be filmed for anyone to see, kind of thing. I have a good point too. I think I sent it in. It was now months ago, but there was a video that I was giving feedback on, and the video the whole way through was perfect. But at the end, the lady went and said, "You silly little." Can I just swear on this?
We know that. We
Silly
know
little.
that. Yeah.
That's iconic at this point.
Personally, it's not a word I ever use. It's a kind of a word that I would rate as close to the C word, but it's like, you silly little bastard. And I was like, but I understand some people in their own little daily lives might say this word as a joke, something I don't personally say, but I remember just being like, is this okay? So I don't know if you remember, but I screenshot it and sent it to you girls, and I was like, how did I give feedback? The brand didn't ask them to, but the brand's vibe would have been like they would have said something.
It was quite cheeky, yeah.
I was like, is this okay? Do I say don't do that in future? Or did I give her a thumbs up? Like, great, you really got the brand tone of voice. Like, so I was just like sitting like, is there any good feedback? But as far as I'm aware, was it fine? I don't know. But like, it was just one of those
still don't know.
We still don't know.
And I guess this is, once again, it's us shaping the industry as we create the videos. We're like, what is that boundary?
Like,
where are we pushing it?
Yeah,
exactly. And it's like when the brand tests this video and it proves to be working, then they're like, okay, this is our strategy now, this is our language now.
Yeah,
it might be like people were like just dropping
Shocked,
like flies, like goodbye,
Well,
I'm not interested. But you never know.
I feel like though with this industry, it does come back with like the stuff that's more out there, that is more hooksy, nearly not vulgar, but is a little bit more like out of the ordinary, that stops you in your steps, like that stopped me. That's what performs well. And it's nearly this like constant, as you said there, line between keeping something engaging but not just being downright, do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of,
and just tricky, like it needs context always.
Yes,
I would say there's always needs to be
100%.
some substance. Otherwise, it's like, well, great, you just swore with no absolute reason. Great, good for you.
Yeah.
It's like just one quick example is also, I feel like some visuals can be quite aggressive as well. It's like I hated the videos. There was this trend where people were doing the trust fall and they would just fall on the ground.
Yeah.
Immediate no.
I don't. Yeah, it gives you actual anxiety.
Like, why would you do that? Like someone, and then it's like, I know. It's like, I know how you shot this. That person had to fall on that ground.
Oh no, but there's stuff underneath them.
No, they didn't.
I've seen. Well, okay, maybe I've only seen the good one.
Maybe that was just a little bit more responsible.
They've had like the actual, they're dropping down. They've got like pillows out or like a bench that's just out of frame. But
fair enough.
I assume
fair enough.
But
still,
I assume they were all done. Like otherwise, like no, I'm not doing that. No.
But still, it's like, you asked me to trust your brand.
Yeah.
Look what you just did.
I won't lie though, the first brand or whoever came up with that trend at the start, 10 out of 10 though, it got everyone's attention.
Yeah, but the first time, like, it's like the concept, but then if it's like repeated, it's just like
very saturated.
No,
I feel like, and so did those other ones. And like I had to do one as well. It was like getting water splashed over you, and you had to say like a line. Oh, it wasn't nice to do, but it was kind of fun at the same time. But like they were such a trend for a while that that's what I love. I'm like, these new things come in, you're like, oh, what's it gonna be? And sometimes it's so bizarre. Like, what?
Yeah, there was someone on. It was on the clip I gave feedback to, and she had an egg thrown at her. That was the weirdest, most unhinged thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh.
She got an egg thrown at her, so that kind of, and the brand requested this hook, right? And then in there, they asked for an edit, and they asked her to do it again, so there's more yolk coming out.
Oh, you're joking. This is when I think that brands can take it too far sometimes. I once
They
seen
do.
in a brief that asked, it was for laundry or something, but they'd asked, like, we wanted to be really scroll stopping hooks. Think putting dirt into your washing machine and like really, and I was like, why would I wreck my washing machine
Yeah.
for your whatever priced washing up stuff to show? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna wreck that. And someone else here, remember, it was like a blender, throw it in the bin or throw it in the ground. Like, people aren't going to actually wreck their stuff to get that. Send us
Yeah.
out something that's already
Yeah,
worked.
yeah,
I'll do whatever you want.
exactly.
But also too, I
Yeah.
feel like there's a respect element of like, we're not just your slaves to do anything you want us to for a video.
Yeah, plus it's
Yeah.
like just respect people that might actually think when they watch that video, there are certain audiences that would just think like, what a waste.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't want the
And
like,
people
yeah.
are more aware of things like that. It's just like, what? Or like things like when you say in the videos like, oh, these are rubbish, and when you put it in the bin, as a
Yeah.
brand, keep in mind that some audiences might be sensitive to that
The eco, because it's such
content
a big,
in general.
Yeah, it's such a big discussion, I think, at the minute, like eco-friendliness. Even, for example, I was filming for a coffee brand and it was all like eco-friendly, kind of like saving waste. And one of the like clips that I did do that then I was like, no, I'm not going to use that, it's not appropriate, was literally having a hook with like all the coffee grinds out. I didn't, by the way, waste it. Like, my countertop was clean and I put it back in the bag. But it was like a swipe was what I was doing. But then I didn't put it in the video because I was like, I don't want pushback. This is an eco-friendly brand. It doesn't fit the vibe. So I didn't. However, this brand must be doing like mass content creation. I seen an ad from the brand and the content creator done what I had done, but they'd put it in the video and it must have got approved. It went up and I was like, interesting. But also too, I feel like for me that was a good lesson of always keep in mind of like the brand's
Yes.
values and how they're going to be perceived. Because
Yep.
also too, it comes back to, you don't ever want to be like doing something that's going to put, number one, the brand off, that they're really like, right, full reshoot or edit. And number two, if they do put it out on ads and miss that themselves, that then they get loads of backlash. And it was your face that was doing that. Then
You don't
Yeah.
want to be a
trouble.
part of that.
I think
Yeah.
that's such a big thing, yeah.
Definitely. And again, it's all about the language that you use.
Yeah.
Maybe more like a visual language, but it's still language that you portray the brand in a specific way. And I feel like, Ali, like, kudos to you for actually like catching up on it and being like, this might be, not the vibe for the brand. And I feel like, yes, someone else might have done it, but again, you did your job of actually creating a video that's exactly what the brand is about. So I feel like I would definitely be like, okay, let's think about that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also it's the same with like swearing, right? Because you would never do that if you would think that it's going to harm someone or it's going to harm the brand, because
Yeah.
it's like it's obvious. But the swearing thing, it will definitely most of the times come from the brand's like brief. They will state that in the brief.
Yeah.
So I don't think I wouldn't encourage any creator at this point to do that, because you don't know how the brand is going to react. And even though you don't start shooting the content without asking the brand about this.
Yes.
just to take it out there.
Quite a big deal.
It's quite a big deal. But think about even sending the script to be approved to that brand. Just give it another thought, because we're still in a professional environment where we want to keep everything very like, clean.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the swearing, I think it's a good strategy that works for certain brands, of course. Even if it's going to work for certain brands, those brands won't be necessarily willing to use it because they feel like they will deteriorate their image, which is normal. And I think it is very risky to do it. We took a risk when we did it because we were just like, and I think everything, like the whole like swearing, let's see what is going to happen, started when we decided to just think out of the box. Like, we were just so fed up with the whole like other platforms that were just like, get UGC videos, high quality videos, blah blah blah, like 10 days turnaround, or all these things. And you were just like, how can I be different from these people? Like, how can I do it in a way that is going to bring us more attention, but also tell the people that, hey, we are legit and we are doing this because we care and because we have we do have the best creators on the platform, right? So it's just literally why we are. I think we are also confident in the creators that we have on the platform and on the platform itself to be bold enough to make these videos, to actually go live with these, because obviously if you don't trust your product enough, don't do that. It's not worth it. You're just going to lose money 100%.
Yeah.
So just think wisely when you do that. For us it worked. I don't know for other people if they tried it, if it worked. If not, let us know if you are
Yeah, it
one
would
of
be
those
amazing.
brands. Yeah, because it's interesting to see. But yeah, I feel like if you actually put a beep or like you don't actually hear that word, it's not going to deteriorate your image as a brand. But you have to be smart about it. Like the hooks that we're using, for example, in some of our videos are like, your content sucks, But obviously we don't say sucks. We say like, your content, like it's just that thing. It's not really a swear word necessarily, that it's not like fuck, for example, which is like
Yeah.
But
obviously
it's
I
strong
think-
enough.
Yeah, I think
It's-
that's the same as like the ass. Like it's not a bad word, but it's the beep to it makes it more that then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
like it makes it more kind of like
Yeah.
edgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also like we tell the truth, because most of the times your content is not good. That's why your ads are not working, like, because you're either using you're still using those very kind of like polished videos that are pretty much done now, like nobody wants to see that. Maybe in TV commercials, yeah, that's still like acceptable, but like UGC and like ads nowadays, I feel like that's pretty much dead. So you're either doing this, you're either not using UGC, or you're either using another platform with creators that are not that that are not creating high quality content, because it is also about the quality of the content, even though it's UGC. And I think we talked about it. If not, I think it would be a good topic. Maybe we talked about it, the polishing, and just like, yeah, we have an episode, I remember. So yeah, think about ways of, just go smart about these swear words. It doesn't need to be a swear word anyway. You don't have to
Like the examples you give there, yeah, they don't have to be.
Yeah, they don't have to be. It just needs to be a statement that is bold enough and true enough, obviously, to capture their attention, because the trend with splashing water is just like, I keep seeing it for some reason in ads
Even
from
still.
yeah,
Oh, I
and
feel like
it's
dead,
because
yeah.
I get served ads for other like platforms, obviously, on my personal Instagram, and I love them. I love to see them, what they're doing, And I think one of these platforms are doing this, like, or agencies, whatever it is, It's just like, it's just a girl and the water comes on her, and then it's a pause, and then it starts with something, and I'm just like, what's the link
What's
between
happened?
this?
Yeah.
Like, why does she have to be wet in order to get me hooked on your video? That's cheap. That is a cheap thing to do. Don't do it. Just go for a swear word. Is that at least
It's like,
at least
That's got some class to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I've also started to see this, like, I don't know if it's a trend or not, or if it's like if it's going somewhere. It's this kind of like tool that creates kind of like 3D animations that comes out of or it comes out of the screen, like a dinosaur or like a something, And I'm just like,
yeah, I feel like
why are people trying to invent these things that are just not authentic and natural?
This is the thing, and I feel like, but that's another story, right? But I feel like there just needs to be context to everything you do, right? And even if it is like someone throwing an egg at you, or I'm trying to remember, because the other day I did a feedback on like quite like a random hook, and it's just, even if it is like connecting the action with like a funny sentence or like a strong sentence, right? It's like what you said, like if something is shit or something sucks, and this is some sort of connection between what is happening on the screen and what you're saying. Otherwise, people are just there like,
yeah. I think you went and said like quite a good word there. It was like cheap. I feel like sometimes I'll watch ads and it'll be like coffee with like they're mixing dirt and like flour and random stuff into it.
Oh yeah,
Or like
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah,
ones
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like really random things that you shouldn't be doing. And I'm like, I'll watch it because I'm like, what's that? But as soon as it goes on to the actual ad, I'm swiping gone because I'm like, the hook got me. But the hook was so not relevant.
Random.
The hook got me for the wrong reason. So I think that's a very
Exactly.
big point
Yeah.
for people is like, don't be using
Yeah.
hooks for the wrong reason in terms of it only gets attention but doesn't actually hook the person to find out about the brand. Because I think sometimes people get a lot of confusion around the fact of what a hook is. I personally believe a hook should stop the attention either visually or through like talking, but it has to be related to that product itself. Otherwise, you're going after the wrong target audience. That you might get like a good ad, but what's the actual conversions in terms of did the hook work?
Waste of money for you.
But did it not get any sales? Why? Oh, because they watched the first 3 seconds because the hook was actually fine, but it wasn't actually related enough to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then again, it goes the same with like swearing or giving a bold statement. Don't do that just because you want to get attention.
Yeah.
If it's not linked to whatever you're saying,
Back
or
it up.
yeah, back it up, exactly. And
Bring
or
the
if
receipts.
again, if you are a brand that would never do that, then don't,
Yeah.
because even us, like, of course we're super professional in our emails and we're just on point with everything. It's just that we're bold from the fact that we're never taking parts in when like situations or conflicts like happen. Like if it's the creator's like right, we will defend the creator because that's who we are. We it's not like it's stupid to say that we have the courage to do that, but I feel like other brands, agencies, other platforms in general would try to defend the brand as much as they can because they're the ones that are paying for the money for the videos, right? Which is fair enough. I do understand that you are providing me the food that I have on my plate, right? As a brand. But at the end of the day, it's not. I wouldn't go to sleep. Like I wouldn't have a good sleep if I were to back a brand like the example before that provided a script, the creator followed that script, and then they wanted something different because that's how they dreamed about or whatever. No, that's not fair. And I don't think other platforms would necessarily do that because again, you just want to please the brand and you just want to do anything that stands for the brand. So then they can come back and they would purchase from you. I have the courage to say no to a brand when they do a mistake with the consequence of that brand not coming back again to the platform. Because I am confident in what I'm doing. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's why you can get away so nicely with that like tone of voice, is because I think of Clip as being so simply put of bullshit free UGC. Like that is, and it's so, and I feel like, which is amazing, other brands should think about this too, is you need to be so aligned with what your purpose is. And like as soon as you do that, nearly all the other fluff falls away, that it's like, okay, well, is this in our line with no bullshit UGC or content creation? Yeah, it is. And do you know what I mean? I think that is, and that also translates so nicely from a brand perspective and a creator perspective when dealing with them as well. So yeah, I think that's like really, really nicely summed up to your episode. I really enjoyed that one. It was so good talking about different, and
I just feel like we had a big old rant.
Yeah, it was great. Love it.
I feel more lighter now.
Yeah.
Or much light. How is it like correct? Is it much lighter or more lighter?
I feel
or lighter.
Much lighter.
Much lighter, right? Yeah,
but
much lighter, not more.
No, but lighter already implicates more than
more.
Light.
That's true. Yeah. Well, giving grammar like lessons soon as well.
Yeah, purchase our packs. I'm joking, guys. There's no packs. Don't.
It's just pay as you go.
I think too, to finish this up, is probably by the time this episode comes out, we are all having our first little meetup, which will be super exciting as well for Clip. So it'll probably be a little while until this episode's out, but we'll have had it by then. But everyone is super excited. It's going to be our first time meeting everyone in person. So obviously, guys, if you've listened to this podcast, we talk every single week. We have never met each other in person before. So I don't know about you, Nicola, but I am so excited. We'll be seeing each other tomorrow.
Can't wait.
I know. It's going to be great. But as always, guys, if you have any questions, please let us know. We're on all the different social media platforms. And obviously send an email to hello@useclip.com. And yeah, I can't wait to see you in the next episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.